podcast about something where each week we dive deep into whatever it is we find interesting. I'm your host, Calvin, and joining me back and at the United Center, it's your co-host, Nick Richardson.
It's my home.
Is it still the United Center? I
Yes.
feel like they changed it at some point. I guess not, though. All right, cool.
No, I'm pretty sure it's still the United Center. I think they fixed it up a little bit because it was a shithole.
Nice. It was.
It was a shithole.
They got some statues out there, none of Nick. But one of
Not yet, anyways.
somebody we're going to cover today as we talk NBA shooting guards. We did an episode, I did an episode a long time ago with some guys from another podcast that I should probably remember, but I don't off the top of my head, about our favorite point guards. And now we have finally, after like a year and a half, maybe 2 years, moved on to the shooting guard position. We may try and revisit this sooner to get through the other three positions, now that we're in a little bit more of a flow.
Yeah.
And then we may even
NBA
revisit
starts up
point
again.
guards, so you get some to talk on that.
We could mull that together with I don't know, power forwards or something.
No way. Power forwards is a deep class, man.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone's a power forward these days.
That's true, too.
Fucking giants.
So let's start with talking about how the shooting guard position, and, we'll get to this a little bit as we go through our list, because really the crux of this episode is we each brought 5 shooting guards, historical NBA shooting guards, or in current day, and we're just going to talk about why we like them, the way they played, what they're doing now, the reasons we like them, all that kind of stuff. And as we go through that, we're going to kind of talk about the evolution of the shooting guard position, what it's gone from, turned into, and kind of how it's fluctuated by need of the NBA.
Yeah, it's changing with the times.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's more our favorite shooting guards than anything.
Yes, these are all subjective. This is a subjective list. This is not a list of the top 5 best shooting guards. And it's people we liked watching and who I liked, at least from my point of view, who I liked emulating when I played. I don't know if you didn't play high school.
I fucking tried to emulate them.
Did you play high school basketball?
No, I did not.
Yeah. So
Thank God. Thank God.
So that's kind of where we're going with this is who we liked and how we liked to play, or just who we liked watching play. And so with that, shooting guard as a position started out as, I guess, your main scorer. If you're looking 70s, 80s, it was the guy who was going to get to the rim and who was going to get you 2 points no matter what. You're looking at your George Gervins, your Dominique Wilkins, your Michael Jordans, Clyde Drexler, those kind of guys who were the go-to guy on their team.
Yeah, the Wes Welkers.
He's not a shooting guard. He's a slot receiver.
That's the NFL,
for an
shooting
NFL.
guard right there.
But yeah, it kind of is. That's a good comp. The slot receiver to the shooting guard, I think, is a good comp. But then it kind of grew in the 90s when you get to Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, those type of guys. It's just strictly spot-up shooters for a while. Kyle Korver, J.J. Redick. You saw these guys who are just there getting to their spot. They can't defend anyone, but they can get to their spot and they will knock a J down.
Yeah, no shit. Possibly win playoff games. Possibly,
Yeah.
Just saying.
And then
Ray
mixed
Allen,
in there, you always had a little bit of both. Like while Reggie Miller and Ray Allen are at the top of their game, you also have Darius Miles in there who he can get to the basket, but he can't shoot for shit. You still have Allen Iverson. You still have all of these guys who that came up as shooting guards, and their goal was to get to the basket, not to make jump shots. And then it kind of in the mid 2000s, we kind of went back again a little bit. You got Dwayne Wade kind of revolutionized things and brought it back to, this is the guy we want getting to the bucket.
Well, I mean, this guy is the guy that can get to the
Right.
bucket. Like, it kind of transitioned to this more explosive athlete,
Right.
I think. Instead, like, back in the day, it was more great spot-up shooters, but I don't think they were traditionally, like, super great athletes. I mean, that started with, I want to say, the late 80s into the early 90s, the Jordan era and stuff like that.
Other than Jordan, you saw a lot of spot-up shooters. And especially
Exactly.
in the early 2000s, you look at even those Philly teams with Iverson. I mean, Kyle Korver's there. Iverson's playing more point guard than shooting guard, but he's still, like, technically a shooting guard.
He's just
because
give me the
Korver's
fucking
there.
ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. Korver is a I got love for Corver, I gotta say.
Yeah, I like Corver. He's not one of my favorites, but like as just a pure shooter, he's great.
Yeah, he's very talented, but that's kind of fallen by the wayside, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, it's come back around to let's get to the bucket. Let's kind of find ways to run our offense through this guy rather than just sticking him in the corner and letting him shoot, or sticking him, on the elbow or whatever and letting him shoot.
Well, that, and they need to be dominant defenders. Like,
right.
They're not. I think that's what makes the truly great ones. Like, Jordan was a dominant fucking defender. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you can name
Dwayne Wade is, who were, Kobe Bryant was, yeah. I mean,
Tracy McGrady, and
See, I'm going to argue with you on Tracy McGrady when we get there.
We'll get there.
I'm not going to argue with Tracy McGrady's greatness. I'm going to argue with his position listing. That's all.
You could argue about everybody we're going to mention, I'm
Probably.
Sure. You so good. It's subjective. I mean, they could be like 7'2", and it's like, oh, you're a shooting guard. That's what you want to play.
Joel Embiid's a shooting guard now.
Yeah,
and he kind of is.
Lauri Markkanen,
like
basically, like he's hybridized almost.
I mean, he plays on the block on defense, but most of the time he's out on the perimeter. And we've gotten to this era of basically positionless basketball, and this is one of Jalen Rose's favorite things to talk about is the positions, the numbering system, and point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That kind of system of naming things was made up for people who don't understand basketball to help them understand who people are, where they should be, and how they should be playing. But a lot of that's gone away, and the Philadelphia 76ers are a great look at that. If you look at Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, just they've got these huge guys all over the court. The Warriors of the past few years are another great example of they've just got 5 great players out there. It doesn't matter who's playing what position. You guard
and smaller guys
right.
often.
Mm-hmm. Like
I mean, Draymond Green.
Draymond Green's 6'8". He's playing power forward, right?
Power forward / center. He's
right.
He reminds me of Magic in that regard. Like
or Charles Barkley. I mean, Charles Barkley was 6'5", and he was playing.
Just jump through the fucking gym.
Yeah. So you have now a lot of teams are realizing like let's just get our best 5 guys out there. They'll match up as best they can. If you're playing against the Jazz and Rudy Gobert's out there, okay, we got to put a big guy out there. But for the most part, you can find matchups, right? And so they're doing that and getting their best 5 people that can work the best in the situation together, and thus creating new ways to score and to win. And that was, I mean, that's what you saw with the Warriors, and part of the reason why they're so good. Even before Durant got there, they were really good at getting their best 5 people on the court at the same time.
Well, and they just had great rotation. They had great, they had a great rapport with each other too. I think if you get the 5 best guys, they're gonna jive kind of naturally.
Their
I think
best lineup that year, or like those years before Durant got there, was Sean Livingston, who's technically a point guard, but he's like 6'8". Steph Curry, who's maybe 6 foot. He's shorter than I am. I've stood 4 feet away from him. He's shorter than I am. Klay Thompson, who's 6'5", 6'6", I think. Pure shooting guard. Draymond Green, who we talked about, and Andre Iguodala. That was their best lineup that they threw out in playoffs.
I mean, Iggy was.
They'd rotate Bogut in, but Bogut didn't have a huge role on that team because he couldn't keep up with the rest of their offense.
No, he was too slow. And those guys, the ball
He's
movement
too slow.
was outrageous.
He can't shoot. Like, they wanted to do a lot of more interesting things than have somebody standing on the block waiting for a rebound.
Yeah, 100%. Fun fact, though, I gotta say it. I'm from the same town as Iggy.
There you go.
Yeah.
It is a fun fact.
It is a fun fact. He's a really nice guy.
Yes. That's what I've heard. Good basketball player, too.
Yeah, he's pretty solid.
We might get to him on the small forwards list. We'll see.
He's all right.
So, yeah, and the shooting guard has now kind of morphed into it's become a hybrid of all 3 of those things, right? Of your guy who can get you buckets anytime you want. You look at Donovan Mitchell, Klay Thompson, Brad Beal. These guys are, I mean, Klay Thompson's not the best player on their team, but that's only because Steph Curry's there and Kevin Durant was there. But any other team he goes to, he's might be the best player on their team. Donovan Mitchell's the best player on the Jazz. Brad Beal's the best player on the Wizards. They are get this guy the ball, let him get to the bucket. They can be spot up shooters if you need them to be, and they can play defense. So it's gotten to the eventual place where it's let's mix all this stuff together and be really great.
Well, and they've kind of taken a little pressure off the point guard to facilitate.
Right.
Like, I think that's what made Chris Paul still such a wonder at his age.
James Harden,
is,
other
dude,
than the defending, James Harden, same way. He can get to the bucket. He can shoot.
Well, I'm saying passing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like facilitating in that regard.
Yep.
So I think he's not necessarily, and I'll argue against James Harden for days, but I think they're good for like 5 assists a game now, 5-6 assists instead of like nothing.
Well, and
but
they're relied
usually
on
crucial
to
5 assists.
bring the ball up the court a lot now, and there's something.
Yeah, that's true.
One of the guys I'm going to talk about has kind of invented this or brought to light this way of getting open without the ball and facilitating the offense even when you don't have the ball. And so that's what like Klay Thompson is great at that. Klay Thompson scored 60 points with dribbling the ball 10 times or some shit like that. Like, it's crazy. He would just get open.
I mean, they're keying on other players, I gotta say, but I think that also is really fucking important, is being able to shake and move. You gotta get open.
Yep.
Otherwise you're just useless.
Okay, let's get to our lists.
Let's do it, man. I'm excited.
So, just to reiterate, these lists are subjective, and it's important to keep that in mind because for me, two very important and great players have been left off my list purposefully. The first is Michael Jordan, and I only left him off because it's too obvious, and I think if we start to get to talk about Jordan too much, it's just going to become a Jordan podcast, and I wanted to explore different types of players. And I figured you, being from the Chicago area, have Jordan on your list.
No spoilers.
Okay.
I will not spoil that for you.
So the other omission from my list is Kobe Bryant. And I know he just died, and it's sad and tragic and blah, 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 all of that. But I hated Kobe Bryant as a player. I absolutely hated him. He was unquestionably great, but I always felt like he's the selfish player and just not a great teammate. And I always liked cohesive team units that fit well together. Like, one of my favorite all-time teams is the 7 seconds or less Steve Nash Suns from like 05 to 08.
Yes, dude,
loved
Mark
watching that
Stoudemire
team.
and shit.
Yeah, Stoudemire,
Yes,
Sean Marion, Joe Johnson was there, Quentin Richardson was there. There are a lot of great, and they just kept the ball moving. I loved that team, and it just never felt like Kobe strived to be on that type of team. And so I have two fun examples of how deep my hatred for Kobe Bryant as a player ran. The first is in my college composition class, like English 101 or whatever, where you just have to write 6 papers. That's your whole thing. One of the papers we had to write was a comparative essay, comparing one thing to another thing and proving that one thing is better based on your writing, right? So I chose to compare Tracy McGrady to Kobe Bryant and prove that despite not having all the accolades, T-Mac was a better player. And again, when we get to small forwards, we're going to hear more about T-Mac. I think T-Mac's a small forward.
No. Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
I picked up on that.
Anyway. So this was like 2005. It's pretty much prime Kobe and prime T-Mac. The Shaq Kobe Lakers had just broken up. Kobe's in a little bit of a rough patch. Powell hadn't gotten there yet. And I think T-Mac had either just gone to the Rockets or it might have been like his last season in Orlando at that point. And it was definitely before all of his back injuries happened. So anyway, I ran through all of Kobe's championships, all-star appearances, season playoff awards, all that kind of stuff. And then I ran through like all their stats head to head. And pretty much any way you stretched it on paper and really in actual life, Kobe was the better player. But I just couldn't admit it in my paper because I'd set out to prove that T-Mac was better, right? And it would have been easy because like they don't give a shit what I'm trying to prove. I could have just been like, oh no, I just could have switched the thesis of the paper, right, to prove Kobe was better because everything pointed to that. But instead I was just like, sometimes none of this stuff matters and you just have to look at the players and see that T-Mac is better. So I just like wouldn't admit it in that paper.
It's a witch hunt.
Yeah.
It's a witch hunt. Unbelievable. It's a witch hunt. It's fake.
I mean, I was 17 years old. You can't hold it against me forever, right?
Dude, I'm amazed you only had to write 6 papers. Like, I'm sitting here like, no shit, 6 papers?
I took the composition class at the local community college. I took it this is going to be weird, but it was my junior year of high school because I was going to graduate early. I had to pick up an extra English class, and they didn't have any, like, I couldn't take the English 12 as scheduled in high school. So, like, I had to take the college class to fit that credit, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah, so like, and it was at the community college. It was super easy. There were like there were 5 2-page papers and 1 6-page paper.
Oh,
Yeah,
fucking even weaker.
it was very easy.
That is pretty sweet.
So then the other thing that points to my hatred for Kobe as a player is before I had kids and thus had much more time on my hands to play video games, whenever I would get the latest NBA Live or NBA 2K game, the first thing I would do is go in and play with every team and try to get a win online just to prove to myself how good I was. And like as I was going through, I would pick like 5 or 7 teams I actually like to play with, right? And then that would be who I would play with the rest of the time. Whenever I would get to the Lakers, I would bench Kobe for the entire game.
Are you serious?
Even in the shitty
Kobe?
like Smush Parker years when they were just absolutely god awful besides Kobe, didn't matter. I didn't want to play with him, and I wanted to win without him, and a lot of times I did. But yeah, so that's why I can't put Kobe on my list. I know he's a great player. I know he's like top 5 greatest players ever. He's not one of my favorites. I'm sorry.
That's fair. I mean, that's all right. Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
He's also not one of my favorites, but I did dig me some Kobe.
Do
He
you
had
have
some
like these levels
questionable
of
shit.
hatred of him like I do?
Absolutely not. I did hate him for a long time, like a Bears fan hates Aaron Rodgers. But, things change.
I'm pretty sure everybody hates Aaron Rodgers though, other than
I'm pretty sure,
Patrick.
like, he hates himself. Fucking she hates him, too. But, she's like, Jesus, got me an NFL quarterback. Woo!
I guess that's
And
what
he's
she's
loaded. I mean, come on now.
All right. You go first.
Boom. Who?
You go first.
Me? I? You?
Nicholas
All right.
goes first.
Whoa. Shots fired. Call me Nicholas. Fucking Uncle Calvin over in this bitch.
Nicholas.
Alright, that's too much, bro. Too much.
I'm just waiting for you to name a fucking NBA shooting guard here.
I'm waiting for you to stop calling me Nicholas.
Okay, Nicholas.
First, NBA shooting guard. Tracy McGrady. We mentioned him before.
I think Trace McGrady is a small forward. Just going to put
Well,
that out on Front Street here. But I will talk about
what
him 'cause I
you
love him.
think, kind of like your Kobe essay, even though the stats proved you wrong.
I mean, let's look at this
Prove
historically.
me right.
In Toronto, he's a small forward because Vince Carter's there as the shooting guard. In Orlando, he's a small forward because Mike Miller is there as the shooting guard. In Houston, I think that's when he kind of played both roles.
That's when he became his
he leaned
best,
more
I
towards
think.
shooting guard.
That's when I think that's when he was at his best.
Well, and that's also when he fucked up his back. So I think the position change is what hurt him. So I'm sticking forever Orlando Trace McGrady in my brain. I liked
that's
those
the
Orlando
jersey
teams,
I
too.
had. I had the Orlando jersey myself.
Those teams,
Fucking-
I used to play with those on like NBA Live 03. I played with that team. It was like T-Mac, Mike Miller, like Daryl Armstrong was our point guard. Grant Hill was there for 1 year till he got all fucked up and hurt. Andrew DeClerc, I think, was there. One of the Grant twins was there.
Your memory is fucking astounding.
Do you know how many games of NBA Live I probably played with that team?
I do
A
not.
lot.
I'm guessing in the hundreds.
Yeah, because that was back, I was in high school, so you didn't get the
Yeah,
new game every
whatever.
year. So I just had NBA Live 03 for like 3 years.
Dude, I remember. I had like Madden 06 forever.
Oh, Madden 06 was the worst. That was the one
Yeah,
with the vision cone, the QB vision cone.
Yeah,
God,
it was
I
also
hated
the
that.
one where the Bears were awful, unfortunately.
Devin
Where I
Hester,
just
man,
couldn't
just
play.
chuck it to Devin Hester every time.
He was a terrible receiver, but we're not here to talk about them. We're here to talk about Tracy.
Yeah, let's talk
McGrady.
about Trace McGrady. I love Trace McGrady.
I fucking love T-Mac. He was drafted 9th overall by the Raptors in 97. They ended up trading him to the Magic. He was there for a couple years, 4 years, and then he went to the Rockets, as we mentioned, where he had his most prolific years, I think. Like you mentioned, he also got hurt there. So it was kind of I don't know, it was like a bittersweet situation.
Those
I
are
wanna
some
say, which
potential
makes it
great Rockets teams too. They had Stevie Francis, Yao Ming was still there. Like those could have been some really good teams.
Oh, hell yeah. Him and Yao Ming, oh my god. If he just became less consistent, which is pretty unfortunate. But as one of my favorite players, like, the reason being, he was an absolute fucking beast. And he's the first guy I paid attention to who wasn't Kobe. Like everybody fucking loved Kobe,
Right.
So I wanted someone
You had to be
different.
different. Yep.
Oh yeah,
No, I'm
and
with you.
T-Mac was there, and it's just like this guy can score at will. I mean, he just shakes people off, drains a basket right
What
in
was
their
it?
face, and
13
he's got
points in
that
11
fucking
seconds
look.
or something in that one game.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my
Yeah.
head.
And that,
I always think of Reggie Miller when I think of that quick scoring.
he
I
did
thought
that
was
too.
Reggie
Yeah, they
Miller.
both did. No, T-Max was a little long. He scored like 13 points in like a minute, I want to say. But it was the last 13 points of the game, and he didn't let the other team score either. And it was just a fierce showing of ability.
Absolute like strength of will,
Mm-hmm.
and he was one of the few people that could hang with Kobe. That's what I loved about him the most.
Great defender,
when he would
too.
Great defender, and when he would just shut people down and then drain fucking threes, or just that beautiful little jumper right in their face. It's like, oh man, that dude was so nasty.
Let's not forget he
So
patented
nasty.
the off the glass alley-oop to yourself in All-Star games too, and had to do it every time he was there, which was always a great play.
I mean, that's badass.
Like I wouldn't.
I mean, I think everybody's tried that
Oh,
at
absolutely.
least once.
And I
I've
didn't
never
even.
succeeded.
I didn't like watching the All-Star games, as we talked about when we did our All-Star preview a few months back. But you had to tune into the All-Star game until Trace McGrady threw it to himself off the backboard. And then you could just turn it off because nothing else mattered after that. Once you got that play in, you were done. But yeah, it was amazing.
Going to bed.
Got brought into NBA Street where you could do that. So you gotta give him shout-outs there.
You got to give him shout-outs. And I mean, I just mentioned it. His battles with Kobe are some of my fondest memories of basketball, period. Like, those guys went at it so hard. A specific game always comes to mind, and it's November 27th of 2002, when Kobe had 38, 10, 4, and 2, and T-Mac had 38, 9, and 2 steals. Or 38, 9 assists, and 2 steals. And it just absolutely epitomized their duels, which... At the time, Kobe is, elite. He's already being talked about as one of the best players of all time. Maybe the GOAT like Jordan. And this dude can fucking hang.
Yeah, and those battles were, like you said, they were epic. And, my fondest memories are playing with the Magic in NBA Live 2003, and I'd go for like 60 with them every time. Every once in a while, I'd let Mike Miller get a few threes up, but like, it was one of the things that was just, he was one of those guys that was going to show up in big games.
Oh, definitely. And he was a natural, man. Yeah. It was fun to watch.
I think he got a couple scoring titles. I want to say 2 or 3.
I thought he only got 1.
Maybe 1. I don't know. But I know he was up there. He was always in like the top 3 in like that last Orlando year and the first few Houston years. He was always right at the top, fighting for the scoring title, which was always great. And Loki had one of the most comfortable basketball shoes I've ever worn in my life.
No shit. I always wanted them, but I could not afford them.
I think it was the T-Mac 2 that was the most comfortable one. Because then the T-Mac 3, nope, it's not that one. Maybe it was the one that was so comfortable.
I mean, I never really had very many pairs of comfortable basketball shoes.
So I never owned these shoes, but like I forgot my shoes at practice one day, and somebody had a spare that was the T-Mac ones, and I tried them on, and they were just they were light and they were cushiony on the inside, and it was fantastic. And then like the T-Mac 2, it had like this weird little pokey thing up by your ankle, which they didn't fully think out, because I went to get those and then I couldn't do it.
Like, nah, I can't even, bro.
So yeah, T-Mac 1s is a great shoe.
I have to get me some on eBay.
I've been looking for, I think I've mentioned this. Do you remember the Spreewell shoes? Does anybody remember the Spreewell that had the little spinning rim on the heel of it?
Yes, dude, I remember those.
I have been trying to find a pair of those. If anybody knows where I could get a pair of Spreewells, please let me know. I would pay less than $100 for them.
I'll go down to my local convenience store run by certain people, and I will get you a pair for like $12. You remember Starburys?
Starburys, yeah, that you could get for $30 from Steve & Barry's. Yep.
Yeah, dude, my buddy Mitchell had like 38 pairs.
Starburys, and I think Ben Wallace had a shoe from there, same thing. And then the other ones I liked, I'm not a big shoe guy, But the datas, the C-Web datas, do you remember those?
No, I do
Data
not.
was like, I want to say it was like 03, 04. It was a new brand. It might have been earlier, like between 01 and 03, somewhere in there. A new brand on the spot. They came out with like, they were all black, and then they just had this bright patent leather stripe across them, and they were Chris Webber shoes.
That sounds terrible.
They were awful.
That sounds awful, dude.
They were, but everybody wanted them, and I'm just like, really? A lot of teams were getting them for their team shoes, and like I would just laugh at them anytime.
Damn, really? Oh my god! If I was a parent to those kids and they were like, "Yeah, buy this shoe,"
because they're like
$120
$120
like
too.
Yeah, I'd be like, "Yeah, you can kiss my ass." And I'd just get him some white shoes and color them up myself. I'll play that shit.
All right, so my first guy is Isaiah J.R. Ryder.
I have no idea who that is.
Way off the board here. He was drafted in 1993 by the Timberwolves, played until 2001. And just go on YouTube and just look up J.R. Ryder highlights. There's like,
so he's shorter career.
Yeah, he's got like a 3 to 6 minute clip. There's a couple clips out there, but like the 3 to 6 minute, anywhere in there, any of those you choose are going to be great. But the highlight of these highlight mixtapes is one of my favorite plays I've ever seen. He steps back on this guy, like he's on the elbow, does a little dribble, does a step back. The guy falls over, which is always great.
Nice.
He stops himself, looks down at the guy on the ground, laughs at him, and then drains the jumper. It's one of the best things I've ever seen in my life, and it's the main reason he is showing up on my list. That one play, but all of his highlights from his Timberwolves years are great. He won the 1994 Slam Dunk Contest with the East Bay Funk Dunk.
That's awful. That's a terrible name too.
No, not a great name.
That's a mouthful.
He also had stints with the Blazers, the Hawks, the Lakers, and a 10-game contract with the Nuggets in 2001. Then he fell in some hard times after his career, had some drug abuse and assault issues in 2007. He was sentenced to 7 months in jail after pleading guilty to cocaine possession, evading the police, and battery, and he only served about half the time. Then in 2012, he announced he was planning to release a documentary about his life called My Testimony, Raw and Uncut. I'm not sure that ever happened.
I'd be curious to find out. I'm very, very curious.
Watch the highlights of
balls. I already got it pulled up on YouTube.
I got a link. I'll share the link when we release the episode. He's a mixtape highlight guy. He was never one of the greatest players, but he has a great highlight reel.
Got a couple moments where it's like bam, and he played KG, right?
Maybe a little bit. When did KG get drafted? 95-ish?
I thought it was earlier than that.
I don't think so.
I don't know. Anyways.
95. So yeah, he would have played with them for 2 or 3 years before he went to Portland. Because he was on Portland for like maybe 2 years. He was on the Hawks for less than a year, the Lakers for less than a year. So yeah, he would have played with KG for a little bit.
And then he sucked.
Yeah. He's not a great player. I'll say that. So are we doing snake draft style?
Sure, we can do that.
Okay. So my next one, I don't have much to say about J.R. Ryder except check out his highlights because they're fucking awesome. My next one is another kind of highlight guy. Not one of the greatest players ever, but just immensely entertaining to watch, and that's Quentin Richardson. 2000 to 2013. I really wanted someone from the early 2000s Clippers. I couldn't pick Darius Miles because he's not good. And Corey Maggette, I didn't like his style as much. But that early 2000s Clippers team was so much fun to watch. We talked a bit about it on the when we did college movies and we were covering Van Wilder because they were all in that movie as their college team. It was just like they were such a bad team. They couldn't win, but they were so much fun and high flying and just enjoyable to watch. Which sometimes that's all you want, you know?
So, I mean, basketball's a game, so it's like I like watching people have fun while playing it.
Exactly.
It's still got to be competitive and shit like that, but I mean, the early 2000s were ripe with fun basketball to watch.
Fun, really bad teams. Yes.
Oh, I mean, I'm not going to say they were bad by any means, but like the Detroit Pistons were hella fucking fun to watch. They were super fun to watch.
Like AI's Sixers, like they were a lot of fun to watch.
So
and
fun
they
to
were
watch.
so bad outside of AI. Like, he
Pretty
dragged
much.
them to playoffs.
Yeah, he literally
He really
dragged
did.
every inch of
Even like those
every inch of them.
those early 2000s Lakers teams were fun to watch.
Oh yeah,
Early 2000s Magic with T-Mac, really fun
the
to
early
watch.
2000s period were really,
It was a good time.
You know,
Everybody just decided that we're not going to shoot jump shots anymore, and that was a lot of fun.
yeah, pretty much.
Other
Vince
than like
Carter.
Ray Allen.
Yeah, fucking Ray Allen's over here chewing his gum like, y'all motherfuckers.
And then in the 2004 Olympics, we found out why that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
To have nobody that can shoot the ball.
Pretty much.
So yeah, this Clippers team's kind of a precursor to Lob City that would come there later with Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. Just none of the actual talent around that. I just felt Quentin Richardson, he's the best all-around player from this team, and then he bounced around the league for a little while. Did stints with the Knicks, with the Magic, a couple other teams thrown in there, just like random. He was a big trade piece a lot of the time. And then
yeah, he had massive potential, and they're just like, yeah, you can get a lot of return for this guy.
Right.
And it never really
he was in
out.
like every trade from 2005 to 2013. He was a part of the 7 seconds or less Suns team that we talked about before. Won the 2005 NBA 3-point contest. And the best thing about Quentin Richardson was the pulling out the antennas with Darius Miles.
Refresh my memory.
So you don't remember that? Anytime they'd have a good player like an alley-oop to one another, they'd do like they tap I'm doing it, nobody can see me, but they'd tap their fists on their head. You don't remember that? And a lot of people thought they were like pulling out antenna, like they're communicating with each other. But really what it was, Darius Miles admitted in a Players Tribune article a few years ago that they played like a pickup game with these, or they didn't even play the pickup, they just went to watch a local LA high school team play. And the guys on the LA high school team were doing that. So they decided they were going to start doing it as like a shout out to that local high school team.
That'd be sweet.
Because they liked how those guys played. So they were like, but imagine being those guys on the high school team, and then all of a sudden you see Q and D Miles out there doing your thing, and everybody's like, you stole that from those guys. And really they stole it from you.
They're getting interviewed, and they're like, and fuck Tommy, I came up with that shit first. Fuck him. Don't listen to his bitch ass.
I could see Darius Miles doing that. Darius Miles always tried to have that acting career too. He was in Van Wilder. He was in The Perfect Score, where they tried to steal the answers to the SATs. He was in a few movies in the early 2000s. Never panned out for him there either.
Fucking awful too.
But
The Perfect Score.
I like Quentin Richardson as a player. He was a great spot-up shooter. He kind of hit that hybrid like we're talking about of where he could defend a little bit, he could get to the basket and get a bucket if you needed him, and then he could spot up for 3 too. So that's why I like Quentin Richardson.
Yeah, I dig.
Let's get your next guy.
Let's get him. My next guy, you mentioned him already. That's Allen Iverson. Fucking AI, dog.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, he's a beast. He was drafted first overall by the Sixers, played there for 10 years, and like you said, drug them to winning seasons and playoffs.
And
I mean, it's just practice, bro. It's just practice.
So
that is infamous, and I love it.
The reason I couldn't pick AI on my list is because he was too good. I could never actually emulate him. I wanted to. I want to be that good at handling the ball. I just couldn't do it. So I've got a little bit of a chip on my. I love him. He's a great player. I love watching him play. He's so feisty and he's so undersized. And he didn't fit the shooting guard position at all. He's under 6 feet.
Not at all.
But he also played shooting guard the whole time. Like they had Eric Snow there, and who was the other guy? Larry Hughes, who would often be the actual point guards, and AI would play off the ball, or once they'd run their offense through him off the ball, or they'd get him the ball to do it. But he wasn't their main ball handler. That's what Eric Snow and Larry Hughes are there for. He was just so good, though.
Oh, he was like lightning. He was so fun to watch. And like you said, he was way too good for me to remotely emulate. But I played basketball with a kid who had a game super similar to him, and I was just in awe of it, I guess, is a good way to say it. Like, watching someone just move like that, the super quick feet, and while being coming across as kind of a not necessarily intellectual, his basketball intelligence was amazing. Like, I always thought AI's basketball intelligence was really, really good. He just knew where to go, and I think his sense of timing was sensational.
Absolutely. He gets a lot of credit for his ability to get to the basket and score over bigger players, and also, you know, his dribbling ability, obviously. But he was a really good passer, too, of finding people where they should be and where they needed to be and getting them the ball when he was stuck.
When he was stuck. And that was, I think, not... It was a strength and a weakness.
He just didn't get stuck
because he would... Well, no, he would push till he got stuck.
Right.
And then sometimes he was a little reluctant to give up the ball. But
it wasn't because he didn't know what to do with it. He just thought he could find his own way out.
Exactly. Well, I mean, his team was fucking trash. So it was like, you know,
that
was kind
Eric
of
Snow
usually
in
his
the corner?
option.
Come on now.
Yeah, come on now. But I mean, the closest player I saw that I, you know, besides AI that had like that quickness and that drive and that just ability to finish was Derrick Rose before he got hurt. And even then,
Derrick Rose is a little more.
He's
a
lot bigger,
and he's thicker.
Yeah, he's like 6'3".
Yeah,
and built, but his quickness is kind of what I'm focusing on, like his feet and his balance. But AI's dribbling skills too were insane. Like, dude, he crossed out MJ. He crossed out Michael fucking Jordan, bro. Before the braids.
So the closest comp I would give him right now from a dribbling aspect is probably Steph Curry. Like, Steph Curry can do some very impressive things handling the ball.
Yeah, he's got handles for sure.
And like, nobody gives Steph Curry that credit that he deserves. Like, he is a really good ball handler. And he does some crazy shit with the ball that nobody sees coming. And he, like, I know a lot of people growing up, if you're my age or younger, like pretty much from my age to your age, everybody who was less than 6'1" was trying to be AI. So everybody kind of tried to develop that ball handling skill. And so if you're looking at NBA player, obviously, like, people like us don't matter. But like, if you're looking at NBA players, point guards in the latter end of their career, Steph Curry, John Wall, those type of guys, they're all looking to do that. And as they're growing up, they're trying to be Allen Iverson. And I feel like he's the best one at it still.
Yeah, I mean, he was a true talent, and he had that mean streak almost, because I mean, the whole thing came from Michael Jordan calling him a little bitch, and you gotta have a set of fucking balls on you to be like, all right, I'm gonna go after Jordan, and and then he took it, and now I'm gonna cross the shit out of him. Like, that was insane. And I mean, my other favorite memory of Iverson was he was talking shit to Dennis Rodman, and he got beat down a little bit, and he came back at him again and again and again, and his little ass was tough as fuck. Yes. And I thought that was balling.
Also,
love that about him.
Noted a better football player than basketball player.
Yeah, that was always the comparison. Him and Mike Vick.
Yeah.
Like, I guess he could throw further than Michael Vick, had a better arm, and Michael Vick had a crazy arm. Yeah.
While you're on YouTube, listeners, looking at the J.R. Ryder highlights, look at Allen Iverson high school football highlights. It's in fucking sane. He's just way too small. Like, he would have never been able to play football in college.
Well, I mean, Tariq Cohen, bro.
Allen Iverson would have gotten literally murdered. Because Allen Iverson, like, he's short, and he's also small.
Slight. Yeah, he's slight.
He's like 5'11", 180 pounds.
If that, dude. You're giving him some leeway there.
Well, like, when he entered the NBA, that's probably how big he was. Coming out of high school, probably not even.
Yeah. But he's still around. He's a player coach on Three's Company in the Big Three League.
I like the Big Three
League. Fucking Ice Cube's league.
Yeah.
Hey, at least he still balls.
I like the idea of the Big Three League. I just like something about watching 3-on-3 for as long as their games are. It gets a little boring.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, everybody's too spread out for too long. Like, you gotta way to ratchet up the scoring somehow.
Yeah.
All right, so let's hear what your next one is.
My next one is also a guy we've mentioned very briefly, but that's Vince Carter.
Vinsanity. Half man, half amazing.
I fucking love that tagline, dude. That was always one of my favorite phrases. People, half man, half amazing. What a great way to describe this guy. He's been a bit of a journeyman though through his career, I gotta say. I wrote the list down just because I thought it was funny.
It's a long
he's played
list.
for the Raptors, Nets, Magic, Suns, Mavericks, Grizzlies, Kings, Hawks, and he's sort of retired with the Hawks. Apparently he was going to announce it this year, but kind of moved off that a little bit maybe because the season's canceled.
That's not official yet.
Yeah, not official, but I think that's why his retirement is not official.
Right.
But I fucking loved Vince Carter. He was an absolute athletic beast who destroyed his knees jumping through the gym. But I mean, his highlight reel is unbelievable, and the longevity of this dude, like the toughness of this guy, is insane. He's a dinosaur, and he's still out there fucking balling outrageous. Not really.
I don't know that he's balling outrageous, but like he has been a
consistent
good player. Yeah, I mean he's a top 8 player on whatever team he's in. He might not be a starter on the Hawks or on when he was on the Kings or the Grizzlies, but like he's been a solid role player for those teams and been able to come in and do what he needed to. And everybody remembers his dunking ability and his jumping ability and his ability to get to the basket, but he was a great defender and he could shoot too. He's not a great shooter, but if you needed him to knock it down, he could. And that's
he's good at creating a shot.
Right.
Like just that get little step away, shaking someone just a little bit.
Well, now since he's gotten older, his shooting has become more of his game, kind of like Jason Kidd. As Jason Kidd got older and older, he developed that jump shot that he never had in his younger years. Vince Carter did the same thing. Like he knows he's not going to go jump over 7-footers anymore, so he's got to, work on his game, which is, that's led to his longevity, is that he's been able to change his game and continue to be a role player on teams. Like it's easy so like you take Kobe in his last few years. Like Kobe always had every aspect of the game you needed. He could defend, he could shoot, he could get to the basket. He could do whatever you needed him to. But as he got older, instead of becoming a role player, he said, no, I'm still the best player on this team, and kind of forced the Lakers into making sure he was the best player on the team, which hurt them and their ability to be a good team later in his career.
To win championships,
right.
Period.
Vince Carter didn't give a shit about that. He was going to whoever would take him. He went to Memphis kind of, I wouldn't say on a title run, but definitely like trying to get to the playoffs. The Kings should be, when he played for the Kings, they should have been better than they were. They should have been able to make it to the playoffs. Same thing with the Hawks this year, like that as potentially a playoff team. So Vince Carter, he's not necessarily chasing rings, but he's going to be a role player on these good teams.
Well, I think he wants to chase rings. I think it's a bit of it.
Well,
he never
if
really
he's chasing rings, he's going to LA. Right?
Yeah, I don't know if they want him because he's still kind of expensive. But I mean,
I don't get into contract stuff. Like I can't ever wrap my head around contract stuff.
For a numbers guy, that's pretty crazy.
Well, because there's so many like I get what 2 years, 15 million is. I get that, but there's so many little, well, you can trade him at this time for this person, but you can't trade him to this other team unless it's this month. Like there's all these little intricacies of how the contracts actually work and what real money is owed by the team and what's owed by a new team if they do get traded or if they get cut. Like there's too many intricacies to just like what goes into how they're getting paid, I guess, and that I've never taken the time to understand.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair.
But yes, he still comes with his name. Like, you're still getting Vince Carter on your team.
Well, I mean, that slam dunk contest back in 2000.
Still the best one I've ever seen.
Well, I mean, that made me love basketball. Like, I was a fat, uncoordinated kid, so it was like all I could do was box people out, like body people out like a motherfucker, and rebound, and dream to develop my offense, just dunking. It's like, well, I mean, I can't shoot the ball for anything, but I could probably jump that high.
Right.
And,
you can learn the ability to jump high.
Yeah, you can work on that.
Yep.
You cannot work on just being a terrible shot.
Right. I mean, you can, but you have to shoot like
basketball.
200 jump shots a day.
Even then. I tried a lot, dude, and I was not good.
But yeah, I agree. The 2000 dunk contest, still one of the greatest performance I've ever seen, and a low-key great dunk contest. We talked about it on our All-Star preview that we did earlier in the year. but Tracy McGrady was in it. Steve Francis was in it. Ricky Davis was there. Like, there were 6 guys, all great dunkers. And
Gotta love good dunkers.
Vince Carter was just way better than everybody else. And I've talked a lot about who I like to emulate and why and how. When we'd put the rim down to 8 feet, like, my go-to was just to do all of the Vince Carter dunks because I could on 8 feet. Like, I've always been able to jump, but I've always been short. I'm not anymore, but like through high school and middle school, I was. But I could always jump higher. Like, I could touch the rim when I was in like 8th grade, even though I was 5'7", 5'8". So when you put that down to, you put it down to the 8-foot rim, I could do all this crazy stuff that Vince Carter could do. The only thing I can't do is like the between the legs. I've never had the coordination to do a between the legs dunk well.
No, I can't. I've never been able
to
dunk.
I can't do it quick enough. So I could, like, that would be my go-to of like, we'd get our friends over and we'd have a dunk contest, and I'd just be like, I'm just going to do the best dunks I've ever seen, which is the 2000 dunk contest. And I did them, and it was a lot of fun.
That sounds pretty fucking fun. I wish.
And so the same thing you said about like it made you want to be like play basketball and be able to dunk. That was kind of the same thing for me. Is like I watched basketball and I would play with my brother some, but then when I watched that, it was like, okay, I'm gonna be able to jump enough to dunk one day. And I've dunked one time in my life. It was not a Vince Carter dunk.
I wish.
No.
I mean, that's still more than me, so there's that.
It was in a pickup game in college. That was the only time. And that's only because
I bet you felt like a fucking monster at the time.
I would have been able to in high school had I stayed in high school for my senior year, like, because I started doing the Air Alert jump system, and like I got 3/4 of the way through it, and then my parents told me we were moving and like that I was going to finish high school earlier, and I'm like, well, fuck this. Like, if I'm not going to play sports, I'm not going to keep doing this every night.
Right.
And then like when it definitely carried over to college, because when I started my freshman year, I was all of a sudden running faster and jumping higher than I ever had, and I was like, where did that come from?
I'm Spider-Man.
Not quite that good.
Oh.
I'm no Andrew Garfield jumping from half court to dunk on Flash Thompson.
Oh, come on.
All right, so my next guy, we gotta get through 5 more guys here. My next guy is George the Iceman Gervin. I went old school.
George Gervin.
1974 to 1986. I got to give it up for this guy who based his entire career on the finger roll. Because that's another thing I tried to develop when I was in high school was a finger roll. It is fucking hard to get good at doing a finger roll.
Way harder than I ever thought it would be. I thought it would be easy.
Yeah,
you'd be like, okay,
drop it in there. First of all,
I'm really good with my fingers. I've used them my whole life.
First of all, you got to be able to get up to the rim. That's the first and most important part. And being a short guy, that was hard for me.
True to that.
Also, all-time great nickname. And I'm a sucker for a good nickname. The Iceman is a fantastic nickname.
Yeah.
One of my favorite X-Men. Something
I'm
about
part
Iceman.
with the Postman.
The Mailman?
Yeah, I always called him the Postman.
I think he's the Mailman. Karl Malone?
Yeah, pretty sure he's the Postman.
Pretty sure he's the Mailman. Get at us on Twitter. What do you think?
I gotta find out.
So I'll just go on Gervin here. Won scoring titles in the 77-78 season, 78-79, 79, and 80. Then he took a year off from winning a scoring title, but won again in 81-82. He had the most scoring titles by any guard in history until someone came along. That's Michael Jordan.
Michael fucking
drafted in 1983, and then all of a sudden Gervin stopped winning scoring titles. Go figure.
Too bad.
Gervin to me is just criminally slept on as a historical NBA figure. Like, nobody's talking NBA history and being like, yo, George Gervin, man.
Well, I mean, you said it yourself. He kind of was one of the first people to become overshadowed by Michael Jordan.
That's true.
He just got boxed out there.
I mean, but that's kind of the end of his prime. 83 to 86, that's his last 4 years in the NBA. His prime was 77 to 82. And during those years, he carried Spurs teams much in the same way that Iverson carried the Sixers teams to Western Conference Finals 3 times. Never quite made it to the NBA Finals, which I think is probably another reason he gets slept on a little bit. His number 44 is retired by the Spurs, and he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 96. And fun fact, he actually played with Jordan on the 85-86 Bulls. And Jordan, get this, hated that they traded for him. Absolutely hated. Can you believe that Jordan hated the decision his team made?
Oh my God, no way. Jordan?
Yeah.
What?
So, and then Gervin's final NBA game was Jordan's 63-point game against the Celtics in the playoffs.
Booty. That would have sucked, dude.
Well, he played like, I didn't write it down, but it was like he played something like 5 minutes, had 2 assists and 3 fouls or some shit like that.
Jordan, is just chewing him out the whole time. Like, you motherfucker, you better step your shit up. I got to score 63.
And NBA careers and primes were a lot shorter than they are now. Like, LeBron's been in his prime for 17 years. Gervin had 5 years.
Yeah, 17 long years.
Yeah. And so, yeah. But I just like Gervin, man. He's a good player. He could hit a jump shot a little bit, get to the basket. He was from that. We kind of talked about how in the very olden days, your shooting guard was your guy that could get to the rim, and that was like Gervin really embodied that. Gervin and Clyde Drexler in the late 70s and 80s, they were the embodiment of like, we're just going to get this guy the ball and he's going to score. They were
I'm going to score this shit.
Teams were starting to move away from the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, let's get our biggest guy the ball all the time, and to let's get someone who can move with the ball and get to the basket. And it led to things like Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, like all of these guys coming in and being looked at as they're not just there to get the ball to the big guy, which is nice.
Right. You gotta love it.
I like it. So let's go to Twitter for a quick second. At APA something, we did a poll. We want to know who's your favorite shooting guard not named Michael Jordan. And I made sure to say favorite, not best. The options were Dwayne Wade, Ray Allen, George Gervin, as mentioned, and other comments. So Dwayne Wade getting 45% of the votes. Ray Allen with 15%. George Gervin, again, criminally slept on at 5%. And
I can't believe Ray Allen got that much.
Other got 35%, and I think there's a big reason that other got 35%. And we'll start with Cheers to Comics, at Cheers to Comics. Kobe Bryant in a nice gif, dunking on your boy Vince Carter there. No,
yeah, that was a nasty. I watched
Kerry
that.
Kittles.
That was a nasty F. I don't think that was Vince Carter.
No, it's not. It's not.
Nasty GIF though.
That's a GIF. Colby Mack at Colby Told Me, giving another shout out for Kobe. The Tennish Podcast at Tennish Pod has a GIF of Jackie Moon throwing his shoe at some guy.
That made me laugh out loud in my office.
It really did.
When I saw it on lunch break, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that shit. This lady came by and was like, what are you laughing at? Well, this isn't a funny matter.
The Tennish Podcast are known The Office fans, and they just did an Office episode a few weeks ago. So I thought it was going to be a Michael Scott GIF when I first looked at it, because I know they're not sports guys, and Jackie Moon took me by surprise, and I love it. But I would say Jackie Moon's more of a power forward.
He's definitely a power forward.
Because I think Coffee Black was the shooting guard there.
Coffee Black. What a G.
The Ocho Duro Parlay Hour at OD Parlay Hour, they deferred their pick to Coach Duffy. So Coach Duffy at Coach Duffy 11 coming in. He says in his heart it's Allen Houston or John Starks from the Knicks, but Jesus Shuttlesworth always holds a special place. Gotta love Ray Allen.
I guess, yeah.
I like Ray Allen. We're gonna do a fictional NBA draft sometime, and I think Jesus Shuttlesworth has a chance to go number 1 overall there. It's gonna be between him and Shaq from Blue Chips, so that's gonna be tough.
I'm fucking there.
Taking knee for Marvel versus DC at knee for Marvel versus DC. Allen Iverson all day, and they've got the gif of him crossing Jordan.
Yes.
Which, just greatness. Oh, Jordan just trying so hard to get.
Yeah, I know.
I can't do it.
So awesome.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
Hey, look, there's Eric Snow in the corner. Oh, AI, why didn't you pass Eric Snow? He's open. Come on. Oh, no. And then the Social Man Cave at cave_social. What are your thoughts on the Last Dance documentary? I have not watched it, which is another reason I didn't want to bring up Jordan here.
What?
Have you watched it yet?
Yeah, I've watched some of it. I finished episode 4 last night.
It's just so much, so long.
So fucking good.
I can't do 20 hours of Jordan content.
You just told me you wanted me to watch. It's only 10 hours. They're an hour-long episode apiece.
I thought there were 10 2-hour episodes.
No.
You sure?
Positive.
All right. I'll go back.
I have a 1-year-old, bro. I could not get away with watching 2 hours of this shit at a time.
See, that was my problem. I heard it was 10 2-hour installments. I'm like, I can't fucking do that.
No, they release 2 episodes at a time.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's 5
5
2-hour
2-hour
installments. So it's 10 episodes that are an hour apiece. They just release 2 every Sunday.
I don't know if you're right on that.
Pretty sure.
10-part documentary. Okay. Maybe you're right. Each one's an hour. All right. Okay. Well, now I might be able to get in on it.
You need to watch that shit, dude. It's fucking amazing.
All right. Now that I know it's 10 hours instead of 20, I can handle that.
Yeah, that's feasible.
Yeah.
That's feasible.
Well, that's you were going to say. I told you to watch Dispatches from Elsewhere, which is a great show. Listeners, you should also watch it. That's same thing, 10 hours. I get that now. Why you're comparing the two.
Boom.
All right. Let's move back into our picks. Thank you for everyone who participated. Weekly polls at APA something. You can also hit Nick on Twitter at alone_podcast. We're always there to chat and do polls and shit like that.
Love it.
All right. My next one was on the poll. Won the poll. Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade.
Motherfucking Wade.
Love
that
Dwayne Wade.
That was hard for me not to pick.
2004 to, I guess he retired last year, 2019.
I think so.
This is an easy one to pick. Like, there's not much to say. I talked about it at the top. He revolutionized the position. Like I said, it was just becoming spot-up shooters who couldn't defend, and Wade kind of brought it back and was the best player on the Heat for 6 years and then dragged them to a title in 2006. Even though Shaq was there, Shaq was not Shaq anymore in 2006.
No, he was broken.
Yeah.
But I mean, that chin, though, yo. That chin.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sorry. His chin was fucking amazing.
Okay. And then, because that team, you got Udonis Haslem there, which, I mean, Udonis Haslem is a legend in Miami and for the Florida Gators, obviously. But overall, as an NBA player, he's not great. He's not going to make my list of, favorite power forwards ever. It wasn't a great team, and Wade really put them on his back and got there. Since Wade is so recent, I don't want to go too deep on like the history of Dwayne Wade, because I feel like if you're listening to this, you probably watched a lot of him playing. So I want to talk instead. Do you think LeBron and Bosh joining the Heat, does that hurt Wade's legacy in any way?
No.
I agree.
No, I don't. Because, I mean, he won before they came.
Yeah. And he's
at the same time.
And he was there after they left, right? Wade is synonymous
I mean,
with the Heat, and Miami will forever
Florida,
be his city, at least, from a basketball standpoint.
Shit, when he played for Chicago, dude, he's from Chicago. We love Wade.
Yes, he is from Chicago, but he chose to go to college at Marquette. Let's always remember
Bastard.
that. Anybody in their right mind would choose Milwaukee over Chicago. I'm just going to point that out.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago can suck.
I love Milwaukee.
Never been.
You should go to Milwaukee. You should go, next time you're going to go to Chicago, just drive 90 minutes more and go to Milwaukee instead, because it's better.
Fair enough.
So not only does Wade represent everything that Miami became in the 2000s, those teams were just super fun to watch. And I don't really care about the LeBron needed 2 other superstars to win argument, because it was just too much fun to have them all on the same team and watch them play together, right? And that's the same way I feel about the Warriors between 2015 and 2019. And I don't get how and why people hate greatness. Like, why do people...
Because it's so easy to hate. Like, that's...
But it's so much fun to watch these athletes at the top of their game being the best versions of what they can be. I'm not saying, like, let's jump on every bandwagon and, okay, the Warriors won 2 in a row, now I'm a Warriors fan. The Heat won 2 in a row, now I'm a Heat fan. The Patriots are winning, I'm a Patriots fan. You don't have to jump on the bandwagon, but there's something special about watching truly great teams play. Brady and the Pats, the 15-19 Warriors, the 11-14 Heat. Pretty much any Spurs team from 2000 to 2013.
Yeah, no shit.
Jordan's Bulls, those 7 seconds or less Suns, like, they're just all amazing to watch. And I would rather watch any of those teams play any day of the week than watch like a Suns Magic game because I'm from almost Orlando, Like,
dude,
why do I have to be a Magic fan?
Agree with you.
Because I'm from almost there, when like there's so much more fun things to watch. And I can be a fan of whoever I want. Like, I'm a Bucks fan because I when I moved to Milwaukee in 2009, like I went to a bunch of Bucks games, and it was during their Brandon Jennings run where he was going after Rookie of the Year and got it stolen by Tyreek Evans. And like I just really like fell in love with going to the games and watching them play. So like like if you ask me who my NBA team is, the Bucks, but like I still like watching the great teams play.
Well, I mean, yeah, dude. Like I said earlier,
I'm not gonna sit and watch the Warriors play and go, this is bullshit. They just keep hitting shots.
They're just so good. Like, fuck, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
They're fucking winning. It's cheap. The refs, yada yada.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate Aaron Rodgers, but I respect the game.
No, fuck
That's
Aaron
the best
Rodgers.
analogy. Fuck that guy. But he is great. You got to admit it.
I will not.
Sometimes when he came back in the first game of last year and fucking won with my knee, or was that 2 years ago? I don't even remember. It feels like every fucking year with that guy.
Only again, that's because you're coming
point.
at it from a Bears fan. If you watch him objectively, he has very few fourth quarter comebacks. He has very few like actual pull wins out of the clutches of defeat games. He is very good if he's up by 10. He is not very good in close games because he is afraid to make mistakes. And he will not throw into traffic when he needs to. Let's not go too far into Aaron Rodgers right now. We can have that discussion.
I was going to say, this is going to devolve into a 2-hour discussion.
I'm going to stop myself right now. Anyway,
thank you.
I like Dwayne Wade, except as a dunk contest judge.
He's kind of a weird commentator in any respect.
He's in this weird spot where like he's trying to compare everything to when he played, but also be objective, and like he just hasn't found his groove yet.
No, he's not there. He hasn't retired long enough.
Right. And that's happening a lot in most sports. And it worked really well with Tony Romo, but with most of the guys, and actually I think it's worked really well with Alex Rodriguez. I don't follow baseball, but apparently he's like become this good media guy. Like they try and bring them into media right off the court or right off the field, and like they're just not there yet. Like they need time away from the game a little bit to re-objectify themselves. To become objective viewers again, rather than being like, I just played against that guy 3 months ago. Fuck him, you know? Anyway, who you got next?
Who I got next? I got, honestly, probably my favorite player on this list, and that's Manu Ginobili of Spurs fame.
So I hated Manu for a while.
I hated his name. Manu Ginobili.
I
hated the announcers.
I had this roommate my sophomore year in college that would play NBA Live as the Spurs, and he would just fucking kill me with Manu and Tim Duncan and Tony Parker, and like I just hated it so much because he would beat me with them. And so like I just had this hatred mostly for Manu, but because he would like be his main go-to guy. But Manu's a great player.
I mean, that's misplaced hate, my friend.
Oh, it absolutely is. It was solely based on video game performance, though.
Well, yeah. Watching him play is amazing. He reminds me of just like his draft position. He was 57th overall in '99 by the Spurs. It reminds me of like Russell Wilson in a sense, like this kind of generational guy. And he stayed in Argentina till 2002, but this dude was the man. He was one of my favorites because
he was nifty.
He was nifty as shit. And being the sixth man of the year, like he was not a fan of, I mean, he was the generational sixth man. He was not a fan of like heaps of praise. He didn't really want to be in none of those Spurs players really did. But I mean, he played his role so well. But what he brought to the game was like, he was one of the nastiest finishers I've ever seen. Like when that guy saw a lane, he hit that shit hard as
he invented a new move. Like the Euro step exists because of Manu Ginobili, and
that's badass.
It's been a bit bastardized at this point, and people are just like taking off from the 3-point line, and traveling.
Yeah, I mean that's
pretty much because of Manu.
But they would call the fuck out of that back in the day. But what I loved about Ginobili was his passing. Like his passing was unreal, man. And in the NBA Finals,
I knew that
Game
about
1.
Him.
Oh, dude, go look at his highlights, and here's a good example to look at is the 2014 NBA Finals in Game 1. Yep. He straight up passes this shit through Norris Cole's legs in transition.
Norris Cole, what a beast.
Yeah, what a name. And then also in the same Finals, He saw a lane, like you could see it on film, dude. He sees this lane, drives hard in the paint, and dunks the fuck out of Chris Bosh, dude.
Yeah.
He made him look like a bitch, man. And he was staring that lane down harder than Mitchell Trubisky stares down his receivers. And he still fucking dunked on Chris Bosh, who was at, he's kind of up there. I mean, he's still in the midst of his semi-prime.
Bosh was still in his prime. The only reason Bosh isn't playing right now is because he had health issues.
Yeah, that's fair.
He had heart issues. I mean, he would still be in the league if not for that. Let's also not forget that Manu slapped a fucking bat out of the sky one time during a game.
I do not remember that.
Yeah, this was 07, 08-ish in a playoff game. No. It was later than that because it was against the Heat in one of the finals, either 13 or 14. Like there's just this bat flying around, got in the arena somehow, and they stopped play because they didn't know what to do. There's a fucking bat on the court. What do you do? And he just smacked it out of the air. Go look it up. Manu Ginobili slaps bat out of the air. It's there.
I'm gonna have to look that shit up, man, because
you're gonna have a fun
an
YouTube night
Argentinian
tonight.
Thing to do. Fuck yeah, man! I got 2 hours of shit to watch now.
You got J.R. Ryder highlights. Quentin Richardson and Darius Miles antenna pulling out. What was
AI in high school football?
AI high school football. That was the other one. And now Manu Ginobili slapping a bat out of the air.
Boom. But yeah, I mean,
we're gonna make a YouTube playlist just for that.
I'm there. He had such a great career, and it lasted forever.
He had a long career. Yeah.
He I think it was 16 seasons in all.
Yeah.
But now he's just enjoying retirement in Argentina, chilling. He's not trying to be much of anything, which is kind of the way I expected him to go off.
I read this thing on Tom from MySpace today on crack.com, where it was Tom from MySpace, he's on Instagram now taking pictures of fantastic vacations, and that's all he does. And it's he's the only tech bro that ever just retired right. He sold his company for millions of dollars and then just fucking did nothing.
Yeah, bounced.
All these other tech guys, they sell their company and then they make a new company, or they find another way to screw you over or steal your data. Not Tom from MySpace. He's just out there living his best life. That's Manu Ginobili.
Yeah.
He's not jumping into the booth to do play-by-play with Doris Burke.
Get out of here.
He's laying on a beach in Argentina, man. All right.
I dig.
We're going to break the snake draft because I know who your last person is, and that should be the actual last person. So I'm going to, break off, go into my last person, and then we'll do your last person because that's what's fitting.
All right.
My last person is Richard Rip Hamilton. I think everybody on my team, everybody I picked except Dwayne Wade has a nickname of some sort. I love that pick. Rip Hamilton.
Love Rip Hamilton, man. He was a beast.
Yeah. So my whole basketball playing career, I was a point guard. I was very good at handling the ball. Rip Hamilton made me want to move off the ball to shooting guard when I was in high school. Just because I wasn't a great shooter, but I was good at handling the ball, and I felt like I could do more off the ball after watching him and learning how he plays. And Hamilton was kind of this precursor to Dwayne Wade. They played at the same time, but I would say Rip Hamilton's prime, 04 and 05, was right as Wade was getting into the league.
Yeah, I mean, he perfected his game,
right,
obviously sooner than Wade did, for sure.
And he just wasn't ever as good as Wade was, from a raw talent standpoint. But Hamilton was an off-the-ball master. His whole thing was moving around on offense constantly, and through his movement, he would get himself and others into the right position to score, and just wear the shit out of his defender in the process. Just constantly moving everywhere. I would read things. I'd read Slam magazine a lot when I was in high school, and I would read all these things of just people hated guarding Rip Hamilton because he just never stopped, and they were constantly fighting through off-the-ball picks and other things to keep up with him.
He was like the long, lean, string bean Dennis Rodman.
Plus he wore the face mask, which was a cool look.
Loved that face mask, dude.
The Dwight Schrute look.
Fuck. Yeah, there was a rash of face mask wearers after that, I felt like.
Yeah, he definitely started a movement.
I broke my nose. Oh no. I guess I need a mask.
Yeah, so in high school, I really wanted to be able to play like he did, but I quickly noticed that my teammates and coaches were not good or smart enough to kind of pick up on how to do that. So I asked to be moved off the ball and tried to keep moving, but I realized like when no one else on your team moves or sets picks for you, it doesn't really work. You're just kind of moving in a small circle, and everyone ends up getting in everyone's way.
See, not a master. It's that hard.
I mean, I tried to be, but like your whole team really has to buy in or know what they're doing. It's small Catholic school in upstate New York, not a great place to be Rip Hamilton.
I'm
to play like the
Rip
04
Hamilton.
Pistons.
Get the fuck out.
All right. Let's talk about it.
Let's do it. I don't have much to say because I think.
No, I mean.
We'd be beating a dead horse, but Michael Jordan.
It's Michael Jordan.
Michael fucking Jordan. I'm an Illinois guy. I grew up watching the Bulls. My dad used to go to games at the United Center as a young man all the time. He, spent a lot of time in college and stuff like that watching Jordan. And, Jordan was the first jersey I ever owned, the first action figure I ever owned. He was the first, idol I really ever had. Space Jam.
Jam's phenomenal.
Fucking Jordan. And
fucking saved Earth in the Looney Tunes, man.
Yeah, he's a G. And, Jordan is, he's an icon. Definitely. Everybody knows that. The Last Dance documentary is fantastic, and it's a great nostalgia trip. So I recommend watching that, and that's all I'll say about Michael Jordan.
So this is where, and maybe I was naive because I was a kid, and maybe I just didn't notice it from adults at the time, but I remember in the 90s, everybody loved the Jordan Bulls. Like, there was no I hate them because they're so good. It was, we gotta fucking watch the Bulls.
We gotta see what the fuck they do next.
And maybe it's just because I was a kid, and like all of the kids are constantly bandwagon jumping. Like, they like whatever's best, and that makes sense. But like, I never felt like this pushback against the Bulls like you feel against the Patriots or against the Warriors over the last few years. And it was just, Michael Jordan was so ubiquitous, and that's why like there's not much to say about him because everything's been said. He was just everywhere. He was a terrible teammate. He was a real asshole, but he made his teams win. And not just from the standpoint of, like, we talked about AI or Dwayne Wade dragging their teams. He made the people on his team win. Like, his whole mindset was, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win, and nothing else matters other than winning. And he made sure that everybody on that team felt the same way. He got them to that point. And if they didn't, he fucking punched Steve Kerr in the face.
Yeah. Poor Kerr.
And that was something that Kobe also tried to bring. Kobe just never got to that point. And I think maybe that has something.
He didn't garner the same respect.
Right. And maybe that has something to do with Shaq, because when Shaq got there, Shaq was larger than life and he was the actual star at that point. Kobe still hadn't really staked his claim, but Shaq was fucking Shaq.
Yeah.
But Kobe was still like that. And so but Shaq wasn't going to put up with someone like that, Mm-hmm. Jordan was always the alpha dog on his team. And Kobe, early in his career, didn't get that chance to assert himself as the alpha dog because Shaq was there and everything was kind of focused on Shaq.
It'd be kind of hard to assert your alpha dogness when a dude with a foot-long dick is, in the locker room naked all the time.
I suppose.
That would fuck with me. Just saying.
I suppose.
Well, I mean, when you're standing up, it's like in your face and shit. It's like, whoa, dog.
What if Shaq has a tiny dick, though? Like, has anybody ever considered that?
Even if Shaq had a tiny dick, based on the size of that fucking man, it'd be...
It's relative, right?
A foot-long dick. Oh, my God. That's it. Have you seen a water bottle in that man's hand? It's fucking hilarious.
All right, let's not get too far off track here.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure when we did the point guards episode, we may have devolved into Shaq's dick talk at some point. Like, I have this inkling in the back of my mind. Somebody go back to that and listen to it and tell me if that happened.
I will do so, and I will let you know.
That if it did, it's going to have to be a running thing throughout this series. Is we have to fit Shaq's dick into it somehow.
We can't. We got to be organic.
That's what she said.
Yeah. Ooh.
All right, so yeah, Michael Jordan was just great. Space Jam, everything you said, the commercials, the McDonald's commercials, the I Want to Be Like Mike commercials, the shoes. I've never been a fan of Jordan shoes. That's just me.
I've never owned one pair.
I've never owned a pair, and I think it's more like I'm not willing to pay that price for shoes. Like, they look
Hell
fine.
no.
They look cool. Like, they're fine, but I'm not going to spend $250 on a pair of shoes. Sorry.
My nephew has like 15 or 16
My
pairs.
brother
It's
started getting
fucking
into
ridiculous.
them. I just can't do it.
No.
He buys the little Jordans for his kids, and I'm just like, man, they're going to grow out of those in like a month and a half. And you just spent $60 on. Like, really?
And they will fuck them up. They will throw up all over.
Oh, I don't care about that.
Whatever.
They're going
As
to
long as
grow
they're
out of
wearing
them
them, right?
before that. Like, kids' shoes are dirty. That's fine. It's when they grow out of them and they're completely useless. That's no good.
Right.
Yeah. So I read this thing on crack.com again last week that was like the GOAT debate between Jordan and LeBron. It can't come down to on the court prowess, because you just can't compare eras. You can't compare LeBron to Jordan because LeBron could literally play any position on the court. LeBron's been in his prime, as we've said, for 17 years. And the game is just not the same, right? So the only way to truly prove who the GOAT is who accomplishes more in their Space Jam movie. And I'm all for that. Like, let's see Space Jam 2. Let's see what the Monstars are throwing at LeBron. Let's see how he, saves the world. If it's not better than what Jordan did, then Jordan's the GOAT, and that's the end of the conversation. If it is, then we might have to give the crown to LeBron. Kobe was never in Space Jam, so Kobe's out.
I'm 100% on board with this, Calvin.
Yep.
100%.
All right, any honorable mentions that we didn't get to talk about?
I have two.
So do I.
One we briefly mentioned. Very quick. Donovan Mitchell.
Donovan Mitchell.
Love
He's on
watching him
my
play.
favorite current shooting guards.
Yes, I love watching him play.
Yeah, let's talk about him. He's great. He came in as a point guard, but like we talked about earlier, the positions don't really matter or make sense anymore. And now they got Mike Conley there, who's filled the point guard role, so Mitchell is like moved fully to shooting guard. I'm just really excited to watch him continue to grow, and I think the Jazz will be continuous playoff contenders as long as like he's there and they can build around him and Rudy Coronavirus Gobert.
Ruby Corona.
Yeah, they may not. They're probably not going to win any championships just because Houston and LA and Golden State are always going to be around. But like they're gonna make some runs in the playoffs because Donovan Mitchell is fucking good.
They're gonna be the Tea Party of the NBA for sure. They're gonna fuck some people up, knock off some contenders, and he's really fun to watch.
He is
really fun to watch. Hard-nosed kid. I'm really down with that. Other one, Zach LaVine.
Come on.
Hear me out.
I'm not going to.
You will hear me out, bro.
Go ahead.
I will keep talking. He's selfish as fuck, but he's genuinely fun to fucking watch at times. Like,
in a dunk contest, yes.
In a dunk contest, how many Bulls games have you watched lately?
None. He's a very smooth player, and I like that. Like
when he is on, like he's playing with confidence.
Yeah.
He plays naturally,
yeah.
Which is getting to watch that is super fun in my opinion.
He moves.
Because there's not too many like.
He moves with the ball with like a grace and smoothness that you don't see that often, and everything he does just looks so effortless. And I think that's part of what I don't like about him is because I think he could be great if he ever looked like he was putting effort in.
Yeah, dude jumps like 9 feet in the air.
And yeah, so I'm not saying he doesn't put effort in. He probably does. I mean, he's in the NBA. He's obviously had to put effort in at some point. Everything is so smooth and easy looking for him, which is nice to watch. And I get what you're saying.
He's easy to hate, but dude's a beast.
My other current shooting guard that I like right now is Brad Beal. We mentioned him a little bit earlier.
I do. I almost put him on the list.
Mostly because he's a Florida Gator, but also because he's really fucking good.
He's super
I hope he
good,
can
dude.
find either a way out of the rotting corpse of the Washington Wizards, or like they build around him something, because he is so good. And they had an interesting opportunity when they first drafted him, and John Wall was there, and Martin Gortat was there, and Nene. Like they had a solid core. Trevor Ariza was there, and
Otto Porter Jr.
Otto Porter Jr. was a couple years after Beal got drafted, I think. I think it was Beal, and then like 2 years later Porter came. But Beal was hurt early in his career, and now that he's healthy and really becoming an all-star, John Wall has no place in the league anymore. Like, the league has moved away from what John Wall is.
Yeah, I agree.
John Wall is a different form of point guard. Like, that doesn't exist anymore. This dribble
He's a
all the time,
one-dimensional-
can't shoot. Russell Westbrook, John Wall,
Just
Darren
drive to the
Williams. Yeah, just
basket.
drive to the basket and do the best you can.
Don't hate on Darren Williams, former Fighting Illini.
I like Darren Williams.
Okay, fair enough.
And then we talked about Ray Allen a little bit. I liked Ray Allen. Just always had that pure stroke. Just so silky and smooth. You never thought he was going to miss. And then someone we didn't mention and doesn't get talked about a lot is Brandon Roy. You remember Brandon Roy?
Roy? Yeah, I remember Brandon Roy.
I want to say he was drafted in like 07-ish. He had the potential to be one of the greatest shooting guards to ever play, but he was plagued by injuries and just never fulfilled that potential. He had one really
He's had terrible knees.
Yeah. One really good playoff run in like 2010 with the Blazers, and that was a fun team to watch. And he just, like, after that, that's when his knees went out, and he never got back to it. But he was so good and so much fun to watch.
Definitely. I agree.
Definitely. That's the end of this. No more shooting guards. Did you have any more?
Till next time.
No more. All right. Follow us on Twitter at APA something and at alone_podcast. We are always there to interact. Let us know who your favorite shooting guards are that aren't Michael Jordan and Kobe, because they're not fun to talk about. It's fun to talk about other people.
Yes, please do. I'd love to hear it.
You can check out our TeePublic store, teepublic.com/APA something. Our Patreon is still alive and well. That's patreon.com/a podcast about something. We have a website, podcastaboutsomething.com. It's there. And all of the...
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. It exists. There's not much to it, but it's there. And all the music for Podcast About Something is provided by Those Cats.
You guys stay sassy.
Okay, classic.
Vodka, whisky,